Welcome to Lifewriting.
Yeah,
Welcome
so
to
uh,
Lifewriting.
we're gonna change. We're changing format just a little bit. You will notice that, but I don't think is going to decrease your entertainment value or hopefully the usefulness of what it is that we're doing. So, Tananarive, uh,
If
when
you're
you are ready,
listeners,
sweetheart.
if you're listeners, you know what's up. Welcome to the Lifewriting Podcast. We're married authors and screenwriters, Stephen Barnes.
And Tananarive do talk about writing during stressful times, breaking into Hollywood, and balancing life.
In every episode, we'll share more tips on how to build a better life while you create your dream projects.
Even if it's only at the rate of one sentence a day. Life writing is the application of the tools of writing to life and the tools of life to your writing.
Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the podcast. Glad to see the new faces. And that's, of course, a canned studio audience, but we have a real studio audience. So why don't you all unmic and everybody just say hello. Just say hello for a second. Let people know we're not lying. We actually have a studio audience and we're excited. So say hello, everybody.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
Hi,
Hi.
everybody.
Great to see you.
That's
Hello.
it.
Hi,
Yes,
people.
It
that's what
is.
I'm talking about.
Yes, isn't it so nice to see everybody? I mean,
Yes.
just tremendously, and I have special appreciation for that right now. And once again, in time, you will understand. Um, but it's impossible to move forward in life without people. Cannot do it. You need help. You need companions. You need hugs. You need smiles. It's not weakness on your part. It's the literal truth. We need this stuff. Babies who do not get nurtured die without human touch. They die. It's called failure to thrive. As adults, we die emotionally if we're not connected. So, what I'm hoping that you'll do is to use this time to connect with other people who are of similar thought. This is just for writers and readers. That's it. If you're not a writer or a reader, this group is not for you. That's just the simple truth. Because we're talking about people who have an addiction to taking their emotions and their feelings and finding ways to communicate it, or people who are capable of decoding the words in books and the images in movies so as to have an emotional experience, which is kind of magical when you think about it. How do we do that? How do you suspend your disbelief in order to get what a movie has? I was recently talking about the fact that it's useful in reading reading a book, or watching a movie, to find the moment at which you surrendered to the process. It's like there's a time when you're watching images on the screen. And then there's another moment where you are inside the screen having an experience with people. And this happens in any decent movie. I mean, if it doesn't happen, you're simply watching a bunch of images or you're reading a bunch of words on the page. So figuring out the moment at which you surrendered to it will help you figure out how to do it in your own work. So, this is the beautiful thing, the wonderful thing about being a professional storyteller, is that I get to do the thing that I love and make money doing it. It's like, I don't know if there's anything more wonderful than that in terms of the arena of finance. There are lots of things that are better, like health and love. But when it comes to career, doing something that you love, that you do for free, and getting paid for it,
Come on now.
wow.
What's better?
Wow. Yeah, so I'm going to turn this over to you, T.
Let me check. Let me Rosebud real quick. Your mic level might be a little low. I don't know if your mic is in its usual place, but just wanted to double check on that. And it'll all sort out in the editing. So Rosebud, by the way, newbies, is our editing word. So you're getting a peek behind the curtain. If you just listen to the podcast, you don't hear us say Rosebud because we cut those out. But if there's anything we say that we want to go back and edit out, we might say Rosebud, and that goes for you too. If you say something you want us to edit out, you could say Rosebud. For now, though, And if you're a listener, you know what's up. Why don't we talk about what's going on? If you're just a listener, you can't see us dancing. So now you're in the studio audience, you get to see us dancing behind the scenes. What is going on? I finally wrote my first sentences in a novella that I have due December 1st. And I've written an outline. I had to submit an outline for approval, both to the publisher and to the mysterious New York Times bestselling writer who's basically the godmother of this project, and I can't say who it is, but she also liked the outline. But I had not yet written a sentence, and I took some thoughts I was having that I was going to put in my journal. I've been doing a lot more journaling in 2025. There were some unexpected things that happened last week that really drove me back to my journal. And I decided that some of the thoughts rolling around in my head would be a perfect match for the protagonist in my short story, in my novella, rather. So I was trying to create a literal bridge from a pocket of uncertainty that I was experiencing and basically bequeath it to her and say, you take this, you do something useful with this. Because we can't always craft what happens in life, but we do have the power to craft what happens in our story. So I was really happy to be able to use that kind of emotional charge to jumpstart my writing because it's not always true. Some of you are sitting there thinking, when I have something going on, I can't write. And sometimes that's true for me. But in this case, I'm very happy to finally get moving.
One of the things that's critical here, and I hope everyone is doing this, is realizing that, yeah, Tanana Reeve is sweet and she's cute and she's funny, and she's also one of the best horror writers in the world. So what she's talking about here is she's actually telling you how she does it. She's actually telling you how she does it. We don't believe in talent. We believe in hard work and focus over time. Now, she started focusing on this when she was 4 years old. But when she said there was an experience, there was something happened last week that triggered a lot of emotions, and that she began to see how she could tap into those emotions by having a character share some of those emotions. Now, starting with the emotional honesty and then the awareness of this is how you create a stream of honest emotion that you're experiencing, and that therefore, once you crack the code on using language and imagery and words, your reader will feel. Then it's just a matter of what is the cascade of images that you want that will lead that reader to have a particular emotional experience. Anytime that you ask Tananarive questions about things, don't just look at the strategies that she offers you. Ask what's underneath them. And I think that to me, this is part of the inquiry, whether you're a pantser or a plotter. It's useful to understand how to flow, and it's useful to understand how to break things down strategically. Because when everything is flowing, just let it flow. You're having fun. But when things aren't going well, you need to have a set of tools that enable you to say, well, what's not working here? So I mean, just kind of wanted to say that because I never want to take for granted the power of having someone as wonderful and clear as Tananari at my side in life, and understanding what she is, and appreciating that is part of the way I give her respect. I mean, it's kind of an amazing situation, and this isn't putting myself down. You know, I pat myself on the back all the time. I love me, but that's has nothing to do with being able to look at a potential role model and see their magnificence and say, I want some of that. So hopefully that you guys want some of that. So let's see.
I'm thinking you might want to increase your gain on your microphone if you see the gain knob.
I don't know. Can you hear that?
Yeah, we hear you. Actually, our program will even out our sound,
Okay,
but
all right.
when I know I'm coming out louder.
All right. So this week, I have been we're moving into the position to finish the latest novel I'm working on with Larry Niven, uh, probably called Ice Vegas. And so I'm using Speechify, a piece of software, to read it to me. I'm at that stage. I will do something else while I'm reading it with the flow of the written word at what's called second attention. My primary attention is on something else. Some part of me will pick up if there is a faltering rhythmic pattern. Something doesn't make sense. I don't necessarily want to look at it completely. I can feel. It's like, blah, 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 and then it's like, oh, there was a discordant note there. Let me look at it. Okay, so that's the point where I am on that, and it's a good point to be. And then as soon as we're finished with that, I get into a book that, with Larry, that could be just, wonderful. At this point in our careers and our lives, we always look at the fact that a book we're working on might be the last. So there's no exception here, and we can look directly at that. And we love each other, and we've had a wonderful run together. But every time I do a book, I want to make sure that I'm bringing in everything I have, with the appreciation that I literally cannot calculate how much value Larry has given my life. It would be impossible for me to put an amount on that. Then I'm also working on Sigil, the novel that I'm working on, which is my rewriting of my fourth novel. I'm literally rewriting my fourth novel as if I'd never written it before, because I have so much more to say now about the thematics, and I think that the world is different, such that I can be more honest about it. So we will see what happens there. Tenori is creeping here. You realize that I'm working through my headphones. So let me see.
I'm just going to check your audio settings. Okay, is it ready? Now let me just increase this gain a little bit.
I'm working through my headphones.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you're using the headphone mic?
Yes.
Oh, that's why.
Okay. No, you didn't complain about that last week. It's okay. But on top of all of that, we're finishing The Keeper. Now, The Keeper is our short film that was extracted from a larger script as a proof of concept, and also to give me and Tananarive the experience of directing a movie. Because you can say anything you want to, you can study as much as you want to, but until the rubber meets the road, it's all play. It has nothing to do with the real thing. Now, you can read all the books on sex you want, but until you actually get in bed with a lover, you don't really understand what's happening here. Okay. So we had that experience for 4 days. 1 day of pre-production, 3 days of actual filming. And now we're in post-production, where we're taking apart the sound and the color and looking for the best performances and stitching and looking at the timings and kind of sitting back and having a sense of, does the flow of this work? There's one point at which you've got a bunch of pieces of things, and then as you get closer and closer together, it's more of a smooth roller coaster ride. And every time you get a jump or a hit or jolt, the track wasn't smooth. Okay, so you think about how the roller coaster is kind of hauled up that first curve, giving you all the energy that is then expended for the rest of the ride. By the time you finish the first act of your story, you have expended the reader's willingness to suspend disbelief. If their willingness to suspend that does not meet your ability to grab them and say, this is where the story starts. We're watching movies, we read books, and there's a part of us that's saying, where does the story start? And that's that thing that I was talking about. What was the moment at which you forgot you were watching a movie? And you sank into it? What was the moment at which you weren't looking at ink marks on a page, but somehow the page opened up? By the way, Stephen King represents that phenomenon for a writer. It's the same for a reader. In the book Misery, when he actually gives us the experience of the book that he's writing, to keep crazy Annie from killing him. He's writing about his own process, what it feels like to be Stephen King. If you want a great description of that, I definitely suggest that book. T, so let me just kind of turn it over to you because I want to make absolutely certain that we are handling that before we go off to in anything else.
Oh yeah, I'm just thrilled at how many people are here. First of all, we took off a week last week, and you always fear that people will not come back, but you're here, and there are some newcomers here, which is really really exciting. We have 160 plus episodes of the Life Writing podcast, and this weekly Zoom has actually evolved because it was separate from the Life Writing podcast, and we realized we could combine those two things because it's really all about talking about our process, talking about our approaches to writing and to life, and also listening to listeners in terms of their experiences with writing and with life. So it was kind of a no-brainer to combine the two. I'm glad it's working out so well. And yeah, you've been having these great prompts that have kicked off conversations for the past couple Life Writing Live episodes. What is today's prompt? And hold
Okay.
on, let me give it prompt music. If I can find the prompt music. Hold on one second. Prompt music. Here we go. All right, that's how important it is. What's today's prompt?
Okay. Let me give you a little bit of background. So all of this stuff started as life writing, the application of the hero's journey to planning our own lives in advance. Life writing began to evolve sets of tools. There were things that I got from other people, other things that I created myself. The magic formula is one of those things. Fire dance is one of those things. What fire dance was my attempt to create a body mind system, and I used Tai Chi, although you could do it with other things. Now this is in the difference between an affirmation and an incantation is that your affirmations done in motion are incantations. There's much more power in that. So if you were to say every day and every way I'm getting better and better, while you're marching, while you're climbing a hill over and over again, you're driving that down at a deeper level. So there are lots of different names that I've tried to use to help me understand a process that I've been involved in for many decades, which began to diverge from any specific piece of the puzzle that I got from other wonderful, wonderful teachers. So those who consider yourselves fire dancers, hey, you're fire dancers. That's great. That's So what are you doing in the morning? The looking at the hero's journey, but I've noticed that I'm coming back to some of those original thoughts. It's like traveling afar. I'm not seeing new stuff anymore. I mean, 80, 90% of what I see is what I've already seen. So I understand that the horizon is proceeding asymptotically before me. It's time to stop looking. It's time to stop seeking teachers. It's time for me to dig deeper where it is that I am. So looking at the hero's journey, what I did was I arranged it in a particular way. Somebody asked me if there was a heroine's journey, and I don't know what she meant by that. But the way I interpreted that is there such a thing as a nonlinear story structure where it doesn't start here and then proceed here and then go there, but it's very different from that. And so I arranged the elements of the hero's journey around an Enneagram, and I looked at the connecting lines inside the Enneagram, and it was very, very interesting. And came up with there are 34 connections, and I simply created a question, a prompt for each of those questions. Hold on, Anna. Is there a problem that Anna was addressing?
No,
Okay,
no, no, no.
I got you. Okay, good. So, what I've been doing every day is simply pairing the day's prompt with the day of the month. So today is the 8th, and so the 8th prompt is physical action, email, call, draft that proves I'm in. The story prompt version of this might be, what is the first physical action that my character takes that proves their investment in the process?
I love that because if I may jump in here,
Please, absolutely.
so often with learning writers, especially when you're beginning a story, there's so much getting to know you, getting to know all about you. So you're deep in that headspace. There's a lot of reflection. There's a lot of backstory. Like you pick up a cup of coffee, and then it's 3 pages of flashbacks, memories, and how I got here, right? So, did your story really begin when your character picked up a cup of coffee? Was that really the thing that's telling your reader that, hey, this story is beginning? It's not. So, I often advise what I call the oh crap. I'll say oh crap so we can keep our clean rating. The oh crap method is something that your character is engaging with in a moment of mini crisis, like something that really sort of demonstrates who they are, what they're about, how they walk in the world, even if it's just a small action. And I think that fits in with your prompt. New writers, especially, beware of overstacking the backstory. When you're at the very beginning, stick to photographable action as much as possible. What do we see them doing, not what are they thinking? And that's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
Okay. So the usefulness of this is for me to first think about it in terms of a character in a story that I'm writing. But maybe before that, I need to apply it to myself. If I were to look at myself and say, well, where, you know, you're always in the middle of multiple cycles of you're beginning one thing, you're in the middle of something else, you haven't yet accepted the challenge on this over here, and you're completing this over there. I mean, especially if I was to look at my writing, I've always, have an idea in my head about one thing and working out the details on something else and working out structure on something else. I'm starting to write something else. I'm in the middle of writing something else and I'm finishing something else. So that any day that I'm on, however I feel, I can always find something useful to do. It's just like, well, what am I doing today? And it enables me to have infinite variety at the same time that I can say, well, what part of me feels creative today? I'm not beating myself up because I don't have anything to say on one particular project. I can always find something. So if I was to look at this and I say, what's the first physical action that proves I'm in? All right, in what arena of my life do I need to apply this? And there is definitely one. There's more than one, but let's just say for the sake of argument that we're talking about the book with Larry Niven. That's a minor thing, and the action would be setting up Speechify in order for me to listen to it. I had to actually go through some process to be able to do that. It was a little frustrating, but I did it. So that proved I'm serious about entering this final phase in the rewrite. Okay, what about a character in a story? Is there a character in a story that needs to take an action that proves that they are committed? Well, what if I once again look at the Niven Project? The Niven Project is about a woman who was kidnapped as a little girl and taken into an extraordinary government organization training assassins. She has no memory of her previous life. She has had multiple overlays of false memories so that magnetic resonance enhancing of her brain will not show her lying if they ask questions. But the cost of that has been a loss of identity. She has to, at some point, I look at, there are external assignments. It's a triptych. There's one that takes place underwater, there's one that takes place in space, and then finally at this huge entertainment complex in Iceland or Greenland, Ice Vegas. She has to accept the challenge of finding out who she is. She has to accept the challenge of accepting the responsibility to do whatever is necessary to find out what's really in there. And she has to be careful about that because all she can remember in a lot of ways are incidents of murdering people, and then waiting in between those things. If she perceives that as being who she is, why in the world would she dig any deeper? But there is a point in the book where she is given an opportunity to be not an assassin, but a hero. Where her lethal skills, and she's been caught dead to rights, but the people running Ice Vegas need someone who has skills like her. She is extraordinary. She is one of the strongest human beings, pound for pound, who's ever lived. She is unbelievably lethal. And she's unbelievably smart, but she's lost her sense of being precious. If she helps them, she will be given a free pass to leave Ice Vegas. But more than that, she has an opportunity to define herself differently, to ask, what if? What if I'm not this terrible, corrupt thing? And I've used that thematic in other works. In Street Lethal, I use the same thing. Aubrey Knight is unbelievable. He's the most dangerous human being who's ever lived from one perspective. But on another level, he is very emotionally vulnerable. Why do I love that? Why do I love that? Because I felt that. I can go back to when my mother and father were divorced. And it's such a difficult thing to go back to. There were a lot of lies that I had to tell myself to not understand what was happening in my house. I was just too young to understand. I mean, I was, 6, 7 years old? Younger? And my dad was gone. And one of the few times that my mom tried to start dating again, a man would come over to the house and sit on the couch, and I would be curled up on the love seat behind the couch like a little puppy or a little kitten, just silently begging him to reach back and pet me, reach back and touch me, to say that I was a good boy. Just that, in that sense of, am I such a twisted thing that no one wants to be my daddy? That was a very real feeling for me. And that means that if I find that part of myself in a character, I can take that pain and put it into a character and have a moment of truth. It'll manifest in a completely different way. I mean, these are exaggerated characters. They're not cartoons, but they're great exaggerations. I'm making everything larger. So my willingness to take an action that makes me vulnerable is coupled with the action that I have the character take that makes them vulnerable. And therefore, my emotions and theirs are synchronized. Do you see how that works? That anything I write, if I want to know if it's true, all I have to do is ask, are the emotions there? On some level, can I see that this adult is just a little child begging for love? That thing that we all want, that thing without which we perish? Any legitimate emotion that you feel that you can put into your work lifts the quality of the work. You start with what is the honest expression? What is the honest expression?
I
Then you gain skill. Go ahead, T.
I would say the work and in life, in case there are some of you who are not writers, one of the rules that I live by is that when I am very stressed out, if I am anxious, the thing I lean on is action. Much in the same way I'm saying your characters don't come to life until they're in action. I don't just stew with anxiety. I don't have patience for that. I will say, okay, what can I do to alleviate this anxiety? Doesn't mean doing research, doesn't mean making a phone call, doesn't mean setting a goal, doesn't mean, whatever it is, I will come up with three things and these anxieties often come to me late at night when I'm trying to go to sleep. I don't know about y'all. That's when they try to sneak in. I wrote about that in The Good House. Angela Toussaint was always trying to get to sleep, and that was when the bad thoughts would creep in. Like I feel myself drifting, and then it's like, everyone's gonna die, and I pop awake. So, so it's like, okay, I can't do anything about that. But what is that fear masking? What anxiety have I left unaddressed today that has come back to sneak up on me? What action can I take that is going to make me feel better? So, yeah, I think that's a good prompt.
The thing about that prompt there, the thing about all these questions is that let me step into my nerd side for a second. If you understand what an Enneagram is, and I think that I've got an image of one that I can put up to.
And
Yes, there we
describe
go.
in great detail to our listeners.
Yeah, no. So what you've got is a circle with a triangle and some lines inside it that connect in different ways. The Enneagram is mostly understood in the Western world as when people look at it the way they'd look at a astrology. That each of them represents a different personality type. That can be used that way. But what the Enneagram actually is a paper computer that you can use to understand a process. And if you put the 10 steps of the hero's journey around the outside, the connecting lines on the inside, like the two, okay, you have a 0 and a 9 at the top, then you have 1, then you have 2. So the 0 point here would be you're confronted with a challenge. The 1 point would be that initially you reject the challenge. The 2 point would be you accept the challenge. Okay. Now, 2 connects to the 8, and the 8 is the confront evil and you're victorious. The 2 also connects to the 4, and the 4 is the gathering of allies and powers. So if you ask yourself, if you create questions in here, all that I did was ask, why does accepting the challenge, or how does accepting the challenge relate to your ultimate victory? Well, that's obvious. Unless you accept the challenge, you don't have a prayer of winning. How does accepting the challenge connect to gathering allies and powers? Lord of the Rings, so Frodo has to throw the ring into Mordor. He can't do it by himself, so they create a fellowship of the ring. So his fear would be, I am alone, I'm too small, I'm just one little hobbit, how am I supposed to do this? And part of the way you do that is because of his extraordinary characteristics of heart and courage. But part of it is his absolutely extraordinary capacity to bond people to him, to create allies who will stand with him, who will help him. So the acceptance of the challenge includes that sense of, maybe I can't do this now, but I will. Maybe I don't know this, but I will learn. I'm too weak to do this, but I have friends. You see, it's what do you need to be willing to take that step? And make no mistake, there are tasks in life that are so transformative that if you do them, you will never be the same. If you do them, your ego will die. The ego shell that you create to protect yourself will be shattered, and what will be revealed is who you really are. And unless you believe that who you really are is precious and lovable and powerful, you're going to prefer the ego shell, which is designed to kind of protect you. Asking, what does this character need to finally face the challenge that they have been rejecting so that they can take a definitive action? An action which, once, it's like, Mr. Frodo, this is the furthest I've ever been from the Shire. Take another step, Sam. This is real stuff. And it's real stuff because it relates to life. We all have moments like this. And by digging into how we have experienced these moments ourselves and looking at how characters in stories also experience this, you start seeing story differently. It's not just a technical thing. It's not just an academic thing. It's not just a literary thing. It's an attempt to use literary tools to communicate deep emotion. Deep emotion. It's like, what is true? What's true is that I felt totally abandoned and lonely. What is true is that because of that sense of abandonment and loneliness, I sought all my life to find male role models to substitute for the father who wasn't there. What is true is that two men actually stepped up. My karate instructor, Steve Muhammad, and my writing instructor, Larry Niven. And I will love them all their lives and all my life, because that wounded boy who was laying on the love seat just thinking, am I so hideous? Am I so broken that no one wants to be my daddy? That little boy is still alive inside me. But now I am his father. And he is very happy with me. It's like when I meditate and I see that little boy inside me, we talk, and he knows that I've never stopped. And all your children want to know is it's not that different from what your dogs and cats want to know. They don't want to know if you've got a raise at work. They don't want to know whether or not you're driving the latest car. They want to know that you'll feed them, love them, play with them.
Yeah, they want to know, why are you coming home empty-handed? Why are you such a bad hunter?
So when you connect the inner world of your writing and the way you feel about life with the outer world, those things meet. You have your emotions. Emotions drive actions. The actions meet the world. You have stories. When you write them down with skill, you can get them out into the world, and you will get hammered, but you'll also get praised. And if you can handle both of them, then you have the chance to have a career. And then moving on from there to the specifics of creating more and more and more of a career, to expand your career, to build your network, to dare to be able to say, I don't just want to publish. I want to be well rewarded for what I've done. I want to make a living doing this, and I want to make a good living doing this. I want to be on the bestseller list. I want movies. I want this. I want that. But it all starts with finding that moment of emotional truth, because without that moment of emotional truth, you have nothing. Okay, and you can see plenty of people who make movies that have no emotional truth at all. They're just a succession of images that have worked in other movies. But what do they care about? Are you seeing them in any way? And you can see movies that express real emotions in any genre. Kaiju movies, Godzilla -1, for God's sake, was roiling with real emotion. You know, it isn't the genre. It's what you do with it. Are you actually present when you do it? So, any other thoughts, T? Otherwise, we're going to
I
open
would
up the
love to hear
lines.
what some of our audience members have to say about
Yeah,
what action either they or their characters take that signal, yeah, it's on. Who wants to
Leone.
volunteer?
Leone.
Here we go.
So I'm just really excited right now, because I just got, my email notifications popped up, and the story that I submitted that you guys made me accountable for, thank you. Just said I'm pleased to inform you that after careful consideration, Olympia's submission team would like to view the full manuscript of your work.
What? Hey, that's exciting.
Let's
Let's
have
do
that applause
it.
sound.
Let's do it.
My heart, I just want to thank you guys for making me accountable.
We need
And,
that accountability partner, Leone.
oh man,
The,
this
to not,
everything.
yes. Do you understand your power? Do you understand that in a very real sense, Tananarive and I don't exist at all? You created us. You said you wanted people who you could trust. And then you invested your time and energy and emotion and opened your heart to kind of saying, maybe I can trust them. For whatever reasons, T and I don't have any motivations to lie to you guys. We have a lot of motivations to be honest because we need tribe too. But if you will succeed, if you will sell book after book, now we're just walking the same journey together. And at some point, we'll be able to ask you questions that will help us in our journey. One of the things that new writers can do is remind older writers why they're doing what they're doing. That excitement, that sense of aliveness, that sense of la passion, that who you are at this moment, all filled with hope and dreams. This is the writer. I can see the little girl inside you on the edge of this transformation saying, really? Is there room for me? And answer is yes, there is room for you. And one of these days, we will continue to support you. And all I ask is one of the days you start teaching workshops. You start giving free talks or whatever it is, or charge for them. But just start with the sense of mission to
Yeah, this is
help other people see the path that you now see.
very excited for you. And we should say Leon is not only a regular here on Life Writing Live, she's a member of our Circle community online, which is everybody can join for free. It's a social media group for us, like people who just want to talk about writing and life at lifewrite.com. And she's also taken at least one of our courses. So I'm very, very excited. I'm not going to take complete ownership over this great feat of yours because, like Steve said, we don't even really exist. But tell us just a little log line. What is your story about, and what genre is it?
Um, well, it's fantasy fiction. God, I don't really know how to describe it. So it really comes from reading. You
Okay.
guys always mention the more you learn, the more you know. And the idea kind of was born out of like three different books. One I just read called Death of the Author. Um, I'm going to go back to the OG, My Soul to Keep.
Ah, great.
And the other is this book I'm reading right now with my book club called The Ephemera Collector.
Interesting.
And so all of this has to do is with kind of robotics, the robots, the future, the present, and blood.
Wow. Well, it's very exciting. And I remember well, how exciting it is when you open that piece of mail and instead of a completely like negative message or a rejection, it's intrigue, it's tell me more. So good for you. And so what's your next step?
So I don't know what to do because they wanted a manuscript, but when I submitted it, I said this is a short story.
So
Ah,
send
So
them the
I
short
don't
story.
know what to do.
Well, maybe they'd be interested in seeing the short story. Maybe they've got an anthology that they could fit it into. Send them the short story. The worst
I
that
mean,
could happen is
I did send them the short story. That's the short story that I submitted.
okay. And so they say now we'd like to see the manuscript. So they're thinking
Yeah,
that the short story is a piece of a larger work.
yeah.
So
interesting.
what you want is to communicate with them and get specificity, get clarity,
Okay,
because
okay.
the question I would ask you is there a novel in that short story idea?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. So if that's true, then and is this a legitimate publishing company? They publish books and pay the
Um,
authors for publishing them?
I'll tell you exactly who they are. It's called they're the Olympia Publishers. They're out of London and
Interesting.
they have a website.
Okay, so
How
the
did they
question
end up
is,
on your?
are they do they pay their authors, or do their authors pay them?
No, they pay the authors.
Fantastic.
And
So
I
what you have
believe when I first read it, they pay per word or stuff like that. But
they pay per word? Wait a minute.
maybe that was another
No,
one
yeah,
I'm
nobody
getting
pays per word
confused.
for
No,
books.
I'm getting
It,
confused.
okay,
I
so
think.
what you want is specificity. Say, I'm delighted
Yeah.
to hear from you that this is a short story. Are you saying you'd like to publish the short story? Or are you saying you'd like to see the short story expanded out into a book? Get
How
real
Okay.
did
clarity.
how did they end up on your submission list when you were looking for places to shop a short story?
Yes, I just Googled where are the places that I could submit short stories to, fantasy fiction, short
And they,
stories, and they popped
Then
up as one of them.
okay, well,
you may very well, it may very well be this. They publish books. They look at you. They look at your style. They look at your thematics. They look at how it feels to read your work, and they think a novel from this person might be the kind of thing we want to publish. If
hmm,
that is true, and if you feel good about that, then you can continue to, if they don't want to publish the short story, if that's what that is, be sure that you get clarity on that. Then
Yeah.
you could sell that short story elsewhere with the confidence that people thought it was wonderful and start expanding out into a book.
ding, ding, ding. That's what I would say is your next step. I agree. First of all, huge boost of confidence that you will find a publisher for the short story, and even bigger boost of confidence that someone who read the short story thinks that they would like to consider publishing a novel. So it's all good. It's all good, and just congratulations again.
Thank you.
Yeah, very happy for you. That's exciting. See, look at that. We love to see it. We
That's great.
love to
All
see
right.
it.
So,
Does
who's
anybody
next?
else have a story they'd like to share with us?
Because if not, then we're going to look at somebody who has not been here
Uh-oh.
before in a while.
Uh-oh.
And like Isaac Thorne.
I think Isaac is here for the first time.
Okay. Isaac,
No
would you be
pressure,
ki-
Isaac.
would you be kind enough to put yourself on camera and communicate with us? Okay, Isaac's being shy.
No pressure.
Uh, let's see. Anybody else? Caitlin Bucksbaum.
Hello.
Hey, Caitlin.
Hello.
So, Tananarive, I don't know if you remember, you were in a book circle with us at Antioch a couple Januaries ago about the
Oh,
reformatory.
the reformatory. I kind of do remember.
And I wrote an annotation on that book and posted it on my blog when I was done with it for school. And that is now my most viewed blog post on my website.
Wow.
So, and it's
Wow.
about looking at it through with cinematic structure, applying that to the novel. So, thank you for that.
Hey, thank you for that.
I am also next week directing my first short film, which is a script I wrote for my
Oh,
MFA program that I
wow.
graduated from this summer.
That
So,
is very exciting. I was a little bit older than you when I directed my first short film with Steve. a month ago. But That is exciting. Are you self-funded? Did you crowdfund? How did you make
I
that happen?
am self-funded with a generous donation from my parents. And
Oh, that's nice.
I live in Alaska, so the pool of filmmakers is smaller, but I've got a great team that has a lot of experience, and a lot of what you said in that episode on directing was really resonated, and made me feel like I'm on the right path.
Very
And
good. It is the
uh,
team. It is. I think I
yeah,
might have even said in the podcast.
yep.
I judged a short film competition for the Horror Writers Association with the director Rob Savage, who did Host, which is that great Zoom horror movie. If you haven't seen it, it's on
I'll have to
Shudder.
check it
It's
out.
short and sweet. Oh my God. But he said something that I didn't understand at the time. He said, I hate it when directors say a film by. He said he
Hmm.
would never do that. And I thought, well, why not? It's show film. But now I understand because it's not. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah,
have a role in the film. You're very important as the director, even as the writer director. Written and directed by is a perfectly powerful credit. But a film by, where's the director of photography? Where's the production designer? Where's the editor? Where's the sound designer? You all made this film together. So don't try to claim it all for yourself. And I think especially for directing beginners, if you have that mindset that you are leading a team, you are not the team, you cannot help but succeed because it's going to color how you treat people on the set, how you expect to be treated on the set. And I guess my biggest piece of advice, my takeaway from our shoot is even though you trust your team and you will have a first assistant director, hopefully, who's keeping the train moving and knows everything that's supposed to happen, you need to hover. You need to hover over those conversations. You need to sort of have a sense, is my cinematographer fighting for these shots that I want? And if that's happening, I need to be a part of that conversation. So don't let the train get too far ahead of you, even though you trust your team and it looks like it's running by itself. They need you hovering. Your presence is very important.
I agree.
All
Thank you.
I'd really like to say is it's the path, it's not the goal. So if you have a clear objective, all you have to do is study the people who have reached it and then map out a plan so that your days of progress and growth are similar to theirs. What do you have to do to get from where you are to where you want to be and perhaps where they are? Are you doing those things every day? So you do that and you don't look up in 6 months and say, I'm there or I'm not there. You look up every single day and you say, was today another step? Was today another step? So the life writing 5x5 is 5 deep breaths, deep diaphragmatic breaths, 5 times a day. Read your goals twice a day and check in with an accountability partner, preferably every day. If you will just do those things, that's kind of the white belt level of the process, you're going to accelerate your life because you are dealing with your stress in a way that keeps it from overwhelming you because you're training yourself to breathe properly. 5 times a day, you can remember that your goal is to be a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. I'm a filmmaker. Most people don't look at their goals once a year. You're looking at them 5 times a day, or at least twice a day. You're going to absolutely beat ass. It's an absolutely unfair, crushing advantage. Those people, like people who drive without checking their map, they may have a faster car. They may be better drivers. But if they don't look at the street signs, you're going to get there, and they are not. Simple as that. So if you also combine that with, are you having fun? Because I get the feeling that you're just full of mischief. And, and if you find the way to have fun on a daily basis, if you wake up in the morning with gratitude to be where you are in your life, you win. Most people don't feel that positive emotion until they have some huge success, and even then they don't celebrate it. But if you find the things in your life to be grateful for every day, you are nurturing your heart. Gratitude is the antidote for fear and the doorway to faith. That if you can be grateful for what has happened in the past, it's easier to have belief that good things can happen tomorrow. So, one of the things that we ask you to do is to every day, breathe, check your goals, and then have an accountability partner. And we can function as accountability partners until you find a specific person. But I noticed that Jaime offered to get together with you for coffee. Do you realize that having someone, one human being that you are willing to commit to, I will write 5 pages this week, I will do this, and then you're going to have to look at them and explain yourself? A lot of times we can do things for other people we can't do for ourselves. Why that is true is a very interesting conundrum. But what I can promise you is that you're on the right path. And all you need to do is double down on the things that are working for you. And then just keep walking that path one day at a time. Is there anything we can do to serve you?
I Not at the moment. I have a really great group of friends from my MFA program that
Great,
I
great,
Marco Polo every day, and sometimes it's about stupid things not related to writing. I am curious
good.
though, now listening to you talk, if either of you, when you're on set or working on some kind of movie project somehow in the process, like how much do you feel like you write less when you are actively working on a film?
Yes, I wrote zero, not only on the days that I was on set, but a lot of the run up to the shoot, is preoccupied with the details of the shoot. So yeah, and this is not just true of a major undertaking like a movie shoot. There are events that will pop up. Of course, in life writing, we teach you're trying to write a sentence a day. But I'll be the first to confess that there are some days, especially high intensity days like on a set, where I don't write that sentence. But I do try to keep my ongoing projects in my head at least. Like I'm thinking about the next thing, or like as soon as I get a thought together, I can't wait to jump into this next thing.
I would say that in some ways you are writing to, if you want to do film, you want to be a director, you're writing to get to that point when you're on the stage and you're on the set. That this is not a distraction from writing. This is what the writing was about. That you earned your way into this. You created a document that these other people are willing to give you their time and energy and focus and skills. You were willing to wave. You created a flag and you waved it and said, "Follow me," and people stood up and said yes. Sweetheart, that is a extraordinary level. It's not at all the same as sitting in your basement writing a story. Okay, this is next level stuff. I believe that cinema is the highest storytelling art on the planet. When you take a look at the number of the hundreds of people who have to participate to be able to communicate a simple emotional message, because that message was once just an idea, and then perhaps it was a short story, and then perhaps it was a script. It wants to find a home. Stories want to be loved. You are nurturing it, and then you put it out in the world when you send it to a magazine. But if what you're doing is creating a film, you're doing it partially to attract a tribe of artisans who have skills you do not have. And they're looking at you and they're saying, "Lead us, show us, give us meaning." And if you can do that, that doesn't mean you're a writer. That means you're a writer who can encode a story totally in visual images and can communicate those visual images so that artists who deal in the kinesthetics of life experience can then process it and share it and do their art. And the cinematographers can do their art. And the sound design people can do their art. You're a tribe of artists. Tananarive, tell these folks what you said to me about what you were looking forward to about directing the most.
Oh, absolutely. It was the opportunity to collaborate with other artists in other realms. I've collaborated a great deal with Steve. Actually, he's pretty much the only person I collaborate with in terms of my writing. But except for when we produced a short film back in 2013, my best friend Lucina Fisher was the director. That was my a chance to collaborate with her as the director. But I saw that as the director, she got to collaborate with all these other groups of people. And now I'm able to do that. We just had an amazing conversation with our composer. I'm not going to go into details. We're holding back details of cast, crew, but this is a composer who just scored a Hulu series. So he's young, but he's really making strides. He got a credit in Nope. He was an assistant on Nope under Jordan Peele's composer Michael Abels. So I just cannot wait to hear what he comes up with, inspired by our story. And it was the same with the director of photography, hearing his thoughts on, okay, I hear what you want to do. What about if we did this? Because he thought that would express our vision better. And in a positive collaborative experience, it really is like having several brains. Several brains all focused on your idea, your vision, the story you want to tell. There's no other feeling that like it, really. It's incredible. So congratulations to you. I hope you have a great time.
Thank you. I do
I
too.
mean, no, it's not going to be a great time.
Yeah. I have been on set before, so
Okay, good. I mean, it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
It's like a peak experience, but it's a peak experience that is fraught with anxiety, problems, like literally every step of the way. So it's so
So
interesting.
what I can say about that is that it is very similar to being in the boxing ring. Okay? You listen to champions, and they live for that moment in the ring, even though it is the hardest and most painful thing that happens to them. Why? Because they're, what is, they are being the purest version of themselves they know of. Which is why, is Lali Ali going to get back in the ring? I could understand it. I could understand it. Being on that set was like sitting in the middle of a hurricane, sitting in the eye of the storm. There's all this conflict and all these things going on. And also the hurricane is moving. So you have to be able to sense the direction of the wind and keep moving so that you stay in the eye of the storm. Find whatever metaphors work for you. And I wish you the greatest, whatever it is that you want, whatever success is to you, I wish it for you. And you take care.
thank you.
Yeah, congratulations and thanks for coming to Life Writing Live. And Isaac says he is ready. He's ready
Okay,
now,
Isaac,
Steve.
come on in.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we
I can hear you.
can.
Do you have a camera?
I do. Hold on, let me see if I can bring that on here. Here I am.
Bada bam, bada boom. Thank you for doing
Yes,
that.
absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to say that Steve's story about his father figures and having to parent himself now really resonated with me. I released my third novel, independently published novel at the beginning of the year, and a lot of it was me processing that very thing. I pretty much just learned to do that.
So let me ask you a question. When you say you just learned to do it, how specifically did you address the problem?
It was through therapy, actually.
Oh, okay.
yeah, a therapist actually
Yeah,
guided me through
I
the
totally believe in therapy.
process. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Great. I'm glad you found a therapist that worked for you. Fan
Yeah, it's
friggin'
learning to
tastic.
talk to yourself.
Yes.
In a very different. I'm not that person anymore, but I remember being you, and I know what you're feeling, and you're gonna be okay, type
Well,
of thing.
the one thing that I would add to all of that is I will stand between you and danger.
Yes,
Do not
absolutely.
just be the nurturing feminine energy. Also be the protective masculine energy.
Right.
Something that is denigrated in our world, and then each
Yeah.
end of the spectrum denigrates the other. Men don't appreciate the softness of women. Women don't appreciate the strength of men, and of course, real human beings actually have both strength and softness. But that doesn't mean that we can look and see that human beings really do select each other for characteristics that relate to that. Uh, we are experiencing a renegotiation of those polarities and energies, but the yin and the yang of it are still there. So if you had a child, if you did not have a protected, nurturing childhood, you need to step up and be the daddy who can stand on the front porch and kill the wolves if they try to get in. I mean it. That if you can do that, then your child self will feel safe enough to dance. That's the child's only job, is to dance and have fun and enjoy life. Life can be so hard. Let children enjoy that when they're children, and let the child part of you, which is going to be the creative part of you, feel protected by the adult part of you. You do not let people play with your child unless they're going to treat him with love and respect. Okay, so this is important because I don't think it's said often enough. It's not just that you will nurture that child and love that child. It is that you will die and kill to protect that child. That's the warrior attitude. A lot of people don't understand the difference between a warrior and a martyr. A martyr is willing to die for what they believe in. A warrior is ready to die and take you with them to accomplish what they need to do. Find that part of you. That's the nurturing, protective father that we all yearned for. It's just like we wanted, him to be big and tough, but also a marshmallow for us. So if you did not have that, find the part of you that would be willing to die to protect the little boy that you were, and nurture that part. You will find your creativity taking off. If you work with that with your therapist, I want to not just make contact with that little boy. I want to be the most protective figure for that little boy, so he knows that he can be who he is and no one will harm him ever again.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's fantastic. Is there anything we can do for you?
I would love to hear you discuss whether you read, and you've probably addressed this before, but whether you read the reviews of regular readers, and how you deal with the 1 stars if and when you get them. As I mentioned earlier, I published my third independent novel at the beginning of the year, and it's a very personal novel because I was writing it from that reparenting
Okay, well
learned. So the
let's let
first,
Tananarive address
yeah,
that first.
I don't know if this is going to be helpful, Isaac, because I don't read them. I mean, I social media posts I read. I am forever passing along Instagram posts where I'm tagged and people who are celebrating my book. You can kind of tell when people are celebrating you. But just Amazon, I'll tell you a couple experiences where I literally don't look at Amazon. Steve was the one when the reformatory came out who's been like, "Oh, wow, you have this many reviews today. Oh, you have this many reviews today." I'm like, I'm not looking because a couple things happened. One was about the Good House. which is generally one of my scariest books. It's probably one of my best books. There's just one review I could not get out of my head, which said, and I write with multiple point of view, you should know this. So I had the point of view of the mother, Angela, and her son, Corey, and I did enter the point of view of a police officer before something terrible was about to happen. And someone wrote, I'm surprised that the dog didn't have a point of view. And for some reason, that just got so under my skin. I can't even explain it. I will defend my decision to have those different points of view forever. But for some reason, just sort of a random critique from a stranger really got under my skin. And there was another time where I was just too invested in reviews, Isaac. Uh, a new book had come out. I don't even remember which one, but the first review that appeared was not complimentary. And because of its placement, it was the first thing people would see when they went to my book page. And it sent me into a panic where I sent out email and I did social media posts asking people to post reviews, specifically to lower the profile of that bad review. And it caused a little bit of a stink that I was kind of attacking a reviewer, like, and I was like, ooh, that's not how I intended that. I wasn't intending to attack a reviewer, but I can see how it looked that way because I did launch a campaign to try to make their review disappear. And that was what taught me, you know what? I'm not cut out for these review streets. I think in your case, Isaac, you're publishing independently. If you're looking at reviews to see like are there critiques that like 80% of people are saying, maybe I need to pay attention, that is valid. But at the same time, sometimes people who trash books are just doing it to make themselves feel better or seem smarter or seem better read, or there's all kinds of, I think it's better to have a circle of beta readers that you trust to give you feedback rather than really feeling like those reviewers are showing you how to be a better writer necessarily. That's my take on it. It's not that no reviews are valid, but is that the best place to get feedback for growth? I'm not sure. I can't say I necessarily think so. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Steve, about reviews.
I've always got thoughts on stuff. I look at any individual review as a data point. I will read what they say, and if they're negative to a certain point, I can absorb it. If they're negative beyond that point, I often ignore it. It's like there's a fuse. Okay. But the same thing is true about positive reviews. To a certain point, I could absorb it. From another point, if it's too positive, my attitude is sort of like, well, this person's a fan. They're on my wavelength, absolutely, and I can't grow by listening to what they have to say. I love them. It's wonderful they reacted that way. God bless them. They pay the bills. But what I need is to have a deeper and deeper understanding of what worked and what didn't work. It's a little bit like speaking a foreign language, and you need to know if when you say, I want a popsicle in Spanish, that people understand that you want a frozen ice treat and not that you're saying something ugly about their mothers. The language of story then is a lot like that. You have to say the right words, use the right images, project the right feelings, and it's all this different stuff, and it's difficult. So one question I would have of you is, you say independent. Does that mean that you paid for its publication?
I do everything myself,
Okay.
actually.
So that is an honorable position. But I do ask you the question, have people paid you for your short stories?
Yes. In
Okay,
fact,
great.
before I started writing novels, I actually had a few over decades, a few short stories traditionally published.
Great.
Yeah. So I think that that's great, and that means that I'm not as scared for you as I would be for some people. I'd say, okay, let's go ahead and let's see what happens. If you have See, because you don't want to be a writer. Apparently, you want to be a writer and a publisher and an editor and a marketer. If you have those skills and that inclination, you have a very good chance of making a living doing it, because most writers don't want to pay attention to how is the money made. The money is made by people who can look cold-bloodedly at what the value of the work and say, where is the audience that needs this work, and then can communicate to that audience the value of the work. If you don't have those skills, you will end up splitting your money with people who do. It's as simple as that. It's just like if you don't set goals, you'll end up working for people who do set goals. It's up to you.
True
Um,
that.
so continue down this path, pay careful attention. But if I were you, I would also traditionally publish some short stories. That I would continue to do that just to make sure. Okay?
Yeah, and
That's
and
good.
I will shamelessly plug our free social media site, Lifewriting on Circle, which is lifewrite.com, where I do see people trading stories and providing that kind of circle for each other. So that's another option too, keep this conversation going even when it's not live on a Friday. But thank you for sharing that, Isaac, and congrats on the novel. Congrats on working out that very, very deep and important issue and for sharing it with us.
You take care. All right, let's see what's next.
I don't see any hands up. We may be close to
Okay.
time to wrap up.
Well, let me put you back up here then. If you don't see
Yes.
any hands, that's perfectly reasonable. So,
Yeah, I'm
is there
just
anything,
glad everybody came today. This is a good group.
absolutely good group. And we, like I said, this is for readers and writers, but also filmmakers now. So film readers, writers, consumers, and creators of media. That's what this is about. We had to give a pause to the short film for a couple of days because our financiers want to meet with us on Monday, and hopefully they have good things to say. But we don't know. So we have to deal with that anxiety. How do you deal with that anxiety? I think that for me, if you need to have, you're not going to be able to move from one position in your life to the next without being able to handle levels of stress you've never taken. Before you get there, you have to start integrating the habit patterns that enable you to deep breaths 5 times a day. Read your goals twice a day. Connect with an accountability partner every day, preferably, at least several times a week. That is the external structure of an incredibly disciplined and committed master. Masters are just beginners who didn't quit, who stayed on the path, but also accepted mentoring from people who could say, a little bit more to the right, a little bit more to the left. This is why it's so critical to talk with people who are at a level beyond you, and to be able to suspend your ego so that you're not letting your insecurity stop you from learning their wisdom. Uh, you will have things to teach us about other things, sometimes about this thing. Okay, we learn things from you guys every week. But for reasons of our own that we have explained, we love this communication. And we love it when you bring your questions to us. Part of it is that it reminds me how blessed I am to be in the position to have things to teach. Dear God in heaven, that little boy curled up beyond the couch, who said, "Am I so hideous? No one wants to be my daddy." What that was about was, am I so hideous that no one wants to teach me what life is? No one wants to protect me and teach me to be able to protect myself. And when I found the people who could do that for me, one of the signs that you know something is when you can turn around and teach others. Tell
And the beautiful
please.
thing is, there is no faster way to learn than through teaching. When Antioch, Caitlin's program, started their MFA program in Santa Barbara, I was among the first faculty members, just on the basis mostly of having been a screenwriter. Sold some scripts. We did that short in 2013, but I didn't have a long list of credits, that a lot of the other instructors had. When I tell you, I learned so much, not just from teaching students and having to remind myself of the things I already knew, but listening to the lectures of the guest speakers, I still have like wisdom rolling around in my head from the guest speakers who came in. So yes, you want to get on that road of mastery, you want to start teaching, and then guess what? There's more learning on the other side of that. So on that note, if we're done here, I just want to say to go out and make yourself the hero or heroine in your own story.
The hero in the adventure of your lifetime. Unmute
Bye-bye.
yourselves and everybody say goodbye. Unmute yourselves.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
See you, everybody. Thank you
Everybody
again.
next week. Well, not next week. I'll be in
Bye-bye.
Seattle next week.
See you next. All
Look
right.
forward to chatting with you, Caitlin.
you. Yep.
Okay, great. And have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next Friday.
Got a
Memento
whole lasting
mori, people.
connection in here.
Bye.
Really,
Yeah.
really
Bye,
enjoy your
people.
time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
2 weeks off.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.